I'll never forget the day Alex changed everything between us. I was 23 then, fresh out of college and sharing an apartment with my best friend of 5 years. We'd met during freshman orientation, both of us awkwardly hovering near the refreshment table, neither wanting to be the first to reach for the last chocolate chip cookie. Alex had laughed, breaking the tension, and suggested we split it. That simple moment of connection had sparked a friendship that carried us through the stress of finals, bad breakups with other people, and eventually to becoming roommates in a small but cozy apartment downtown. That particular morning had started like any other. I'd woken up late for work, again, and had rushed through my morning routine in a panic. Alex was already gone, having left for his early shift at the coffee shop where he worked as a barista while pursuing his master's degree in literature. I remember rushing through a shower, the water almost scalding as I tried to wake myself up properly. Our bathroom was nothing special, just a standard setup with white tiles and a shower tub combination. But that morning, it would become the setting for something extraordinary. By the time I stepped out of the shower, the small bathroom was filled with steam, the mirror completely fogged over. I wrapped a towel around my waist, running a hand through my damp hair as I contemplated whether I had time to make coffee before rushing out the door. That's when I heard the front door open and close. Alex wasn't supposed to be home yet. His shift usually lasted until noon, and it was barely 9. I called out his name, slightly embarrassed to be caught in just a towel, but also curious about why he'd returned early. "In here," he replied, his voice getting closer. "My manager sent me home. We were overstaffed today." His footsteps approached the bathroom, and I suddenly became very aware of my state of undress. Alex and I had been roommates long enough that we'd seen each other in various stages of undress before, but something felt different that morning. There was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before, or perhaps it had always existed and I'd just been too afraid to acknowledge it. He appeared in the doorway, still wearing his black work apron over a simple white t-shirt and jeans. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and there was a smudge of what looked like chocolate on his cheek. He looked tired but somehow still radiant. Alex had always been attractive, objectively speaking, of course, with his warm brown eyes and the kind of smile that made everyone around him feel at ease. But in that moment, standing in the steamy bathroom with water droplets still clinging to my skin, I saw him differently. It was as if a filter had been removed, allowing me to truly see what had been in front of me all along. "Sorry," I mumbled, clutching my towel a bit tighter. "I'll get out of your way." But Alex didn't move from the doorway. Instead, he stepped into the bathroom, the small space suddenly feeling even smaller with both of us in it. The steam was beginning to dissipate, but the mirror remained fogged, reflecting only blurry outlines of our figures. I watched, frozen in place, as Alex moved toward the mirror. His expression was unreadable as he lifted his hand and pressed his index finger against the foggy surface. I held my breath as he began to trace letters into the condensation. First in K, then in I, followed by S and another S. My heart was pounding so loudly I was certain he could hear it. He continued, adding M and E with deliberate strokes. "Kiss me." Two simple words that carried the weight of years of unspoken feelings between us. Our eyes met in the mirror, his reflecting a question, mine wide with surprise, and something else. Anticipation, perhaps, or fear of what this moment meant for our friendship. For 5 years, we danced around this invisible line, never quite acknowledging the current of attraction that sometimes surged between us during late-night conversations or accidental touches. We'd both dated other people, comforted each other through heartbreaks, all while ignoring what might have been developing right in front of us. Let me explain why this moment mattered so much. It wasn't just about physical attraction or the intimacy of the setting. It was about trust and vulnerability. Alex was taking a risk that could change everything between us. If I rejected him, our friendship might never recover from the awkwardness. If I accepted what he was offering, we'd be stepping into unknown territory, transforming a solid friendship into something more fragile, but potentially more beautiful. I stood there, droplets of water running down my chest, unable to form words. The bathroom felt too warm, too small, too charged with electricity. Alex turned away from the mirror then, his expression shifting from confidence to uncertainty as my silence stretched on. I wanted to speak, to tell him that I'd thought about this too, in quiet moments I'd never allowed myself to dwell on for too long. But the words wouldn't come. Instead of speaking, Alex moved toward me, his movements slow and deliberate, giving me every opportunity to step away or shake my head. But I remained rooted to the spot, my breath shallow as he approached. When he was standing directly in front of me, close enough that I could smell the coffee and cinnamon scent that always clung to him after work, he reached out. His hands found my hips, warm through the damp towel, and gently turned me to face him completely. The gesture was both commanding and questioning, assertive enough to show his desire, but gentle enough that I could have easily pulled away. It was this perfect balance that made my heart race even faster. Alex had always been thoughtful, always respectful of boundaries, and even in this moment of boldness, he was giving me space to decide. "Is this okay?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of water dripping from the shower faucet. His hands remained on my hips, steady but not gripping, a warm presence that anchored me to the moment. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. The movement was small, almost imperceptible, but Alex saw it. His eyes softened, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly in a smile that was both relieved and nervous. We stood like that for what felt like an eternity, neither of us moving, both of us breathing in the steam-filled air between us. I'd never been so aware of another person's presence before. The rise and fall of his chest, the slight tremble in his fingers against my hips, the way his eyes darted between my eyes and my lips. It was overwhelming in the best possible way, like standing at the edge of a cliff and knowing that jumping would be terrifying but exhilarating. "I've wanted to do this for so long," Alex confessed, his voice low and slightly rough with emotion. "But I was afraid of ruining what we have." I found my voice then, small but steady. "Me too. I didn't know if you felt the same way." His smile widened, genuine and warm in a way that made my chest ache with affection. "I've felt this way since that stupid cookie at orientation. I just never had the courage to say it." That admission broke something open inside me, a dam of feelings I'd been holding back for years. I laughed, the sound slightly shaky with nerves. "We've wasted so much time." "Not wasted," Alex corrected, one hand leaving my hip to brush a strand of wet hair from my forehead. The gentle touch sent shivers down my spine. "We built something real first. Something solid." He was right, of course. Our friendship wasn't a waste. It was the foundation for whatever might come next. We knew each other's habits, fears, dreams, and flaws. We'd seen each other at our best and worst. There was comfort in that knowledge, even as we stood on the precipice of something new and uncertain. The tension between us was building, a tangible thing that filled the small bathroom. Alex's eyes dropped to my lips again, and this time I knew what would happen next. I wanted it to happen. His hand moved from my forehead to cup my cheek, his touch feather-light, as if I might shatter under more pressure. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Instead of answering, I closed the small distance between us, pressing my lips to his in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened as years of suppressed feelings surged to the surface. His lips were soft but insistent against mine, his hand on my cheek sliding to the back of my neck to pull me closer. My own hands found their way to his shoulders, then his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart beneath my palm. The kiss was everything I hadn't allowed myself to imagine, warm and exciting and comfortable all at once. It felt like coming home and embarking on an adventure simultaneously. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Alex rested his forehead against mine, his eyes closed as if savoring the moment. "Wow," he breathed, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Yeah," I agreed, unable to form a more coherent response. My mind was spinning, trying to process what had just happened and what it meant for us moving forward. Alex seemed to read my thoughts, pulling back slightly to look into my eyes. "This changes things," he said, not a question but a statement. I nodded, suddenly aware again of my state of undress and the fact that I was already late for work. Reality was intruding on our perfect moment, bringing with it practical concerns and questions about what happened next. "I'm late for work," I said, reluctantly stepping back from his embrace. "And we should probably talk about this when I'm wearing more than a towel." Alex laughed, the sound light and happy in a way that eased some of my anxiety about the shift in our relationship. "That's probably a good idea, though I'm not complaining about the current dress code." I rolled my eyes, but couldn't help smiling back. This was still Alex, my best friend, the person who could make me laugh even in the most awkward situations. That hadn't changed, even if everything else had. I'll call in sick, I decided impulsively. This conversation felt too important to rush or postpone. This matters more. Alex's expression softened, his eyes warm with affection. Are you sure? I don't want you to get in trouble. I'm sure, I said, more certain of this than I'd been about anything in a long time. Just, let me get dressed first. He nodded, stepping back toward the door. I'll make coffee. Take your time. After he left, I leaned against the bathroom counter, my heart still racing. In the mirror, now partially cleared of steam, I could see the words he'd traced, "Kiss me," already beginning to fade as the condensation evaporated. But the impact of those words, of what had happened afterward, felt permanent, etched into my memory and perhaps changing the course of both our lives. When I emerged from the bathroom, properly dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, I found Alex in the kitchen. He'd removed his work apron and was standing by the coffee maker, 2 mugs ready on the counter. He looked up when I entered, his expression a mix of hope and nervousness that probably mirrored my own. "So," he said, pouring coffee into the mugs. "That happened." I couldn't help but laugh at his understated summary of what felt like a monumental shift in our relationship. Yeah, it did. I accepted the mug he offered, our fingers brushing in the exchange. Even that small contact sent a flutter through my stomach. What now? Alex took a sip of his coffee, considering the question. Now we figure out what we want this to be. No pressure, no assumptions. Just honest conversation. That was so like him. Thoughtful, measured, unwilling to rush into anything without clear communication. It was one of the many things I'd always admired about him, and now I realized it was one of the many things I loved about him too. I want to see where this goes, I admitted, the words coming easier than I'd expected. I've had feelings for you for a long time, but I never thought you'd feel the same way. Alex's smile was bright enough to light up the room. Same here. I've dated other people, tried to move on, but it's always been you in the back of my mind. The standard I measured everyone else against. Why didn't you ever say anything? I asked, genuinely curious. Alex had always seemed so confident, so self-assured. He shrugged, looking down into his coffee. Fear, mostly. You're my best friend. The thought of losing that was scarier than the possibility of something more. What changed your mind this morning? I thought about it, trying to pinpoint what had been different. Nothing specific. Maybe it was just time. Or maybe seeing you take that risk made me brave enough to take one too. We spent the rest of the morning talking, really talking, about our feelings, our fears, our hopes for what might come next. The conversation flowed easily, as it always had between us, but now with a new layer of honesty that felt both terrifying and freeing. We agreed to take things slowly, to date properly rather than jumping straight into a serious relationship, despite our years of friendship providing a solid foundation. I want to do this right, Alex explained, reaching across the kitchen table to take my hand. His thumb traced patterns on my palm, sending pleasant shivers up my arm. I want to take you on real dates, bring you flowers, kiss you goodnight at the door, the whole experience. Even though we live together? I asked, amused by the image of him dropping me off at our shared front door. He grinned, that crooked smile that had always made my heart skip a beat, even before I'd acknowledged why. Especially because we live together. We need some boundaries, some traditional structure, or this could get complicated fast. He was right, of course. Living together while navigating a new romantic relationship would be challenging enough without blurring all the lines at once. We needed to protect what we already had while exploring what we could become. That evening, true to his word, Alex took me on our first official date. Nothing fancy, just dinner at our favorite local restaurant. But it felt different sitting across from him now, knowing that I could reach for his hand or lean in for a kiss if I wanted to. The conversation flowed as easily as it always had, but with an undercurrent of excitement, of possibility, that hadn't been there before. When we returned home, he walked me to my bedroom door, both of us laughing at the absurdity of the formal gesture in our own apartment. But the laughter faded as he leaned in, one hand gently cupping my face as he kissed me goodnight. It was sweet and tender, a promise of more to come, but not pushing for anything beyond what we'd agreed upon. Good night, he whispered against my lips before pulling away. Good night, I echoed, reluctantly watching him walk the short distance to his own bedroom. In the weeks that followed, we navigated our new relationship with care, learning how to be both roommates and romantic partners without losing what had made our friendship special. There were awkward moments, of course, times when we weren't sure which role we were playing or how much affection was appropriate in different settings. But there were also moments of pure joy, of discovery, of deepening connection that made every uncertain step worthwhile. Our friends were surprised but supportive when we finally told them, many admitting they'd wondered for years if there was something more between us. "About time," was the most common response, usually accompanied by knowing smiles that suggested we'd been more transparent than we'd realized. 6 months after that morning in the steamy bathroom, Alex and I were sitting on our couch, his arm around my shoulders as we watched a movie neither of us was really paying attention to. I was thinking about how much had changed and how much had stayed the same. How he was still my best friend, the person I turned to first with good news or bad, but now also the person whose kiss made my heart race and whose touch felt like coming home. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, noticing my distraction. I smiled, leaning into his embrace. "About us. About how it all started." His eyes lit up with understanding. "Ah, the bathroom mirror. My moment of bravery. Do you ever regret it?" I asked, suddenly curious. "Taking that risk?" Alex turned to face me fully, his expression serious but warm. "Not for a second. Best risk I've ever taken." He paused, his hand finding mine and intertwining our fingers. "Do you?" I thought about the question, about the journey we'd been on these past months. The laughter, the occasional arguments, the deepening intimacy, the way we were still learning new things about each other despite years of friendship. I thought about how it felt to fall asleep in his arms and wake up to his smile, to share not just an apartment, but a life. "No," I said with absolute certainty. "No regrets. Just gratitude that you were brave enough to trace those words in the steam." He smiled, leaning in to kiss me softly. "I'm thinking of getting them tattooed," he joked, "since they worked out so well for me." I laughed, imagining "kiss me" permanently inked on his skin. Maybe just remember them instead. Some things don't need to be permanent to be meaningful. "True," he agreed, pulling me closer. "Though some temporary things do become permanent in their own way. Like us," I thought but didn't say aloud. What had begun as a spontaneous moment of courage in a steam-filled bathroom had grown into something solid and enduring. A relationship built on friendship, respect, and a love that had always been there, waiting for us to be brave enough to acknowledge it. As the movie played on, forgotten in the background, I rested my head on Alex's shoulder, content in the knowledge that sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest gestures, like 2 words traced in mirror steam and hands that turn you gently by the hips, guiding you towards something beautiful you never saw coming. Total _char_count, 17,984.